as Stefani said, my name is Ishak, and this is Elsa. We're going to be going over a fair amount of stuff, starting with the endocannabinoid system as well as how exogenous cannabinoids work. In conjunction to that, moving into our work and how it associates with that, as well as a lot of the political legal climate around cannabis, all of that, pretty much, and ending with a little bit about how we approach cannabinoids and how that fits within the idea of whole plant use as well. Some of it is going to be upon presentation. I have a few materials I'll be handing out as we do stuff. And maybe towards the end, you guys can take a look at this. I sent a link out to you to the video, and the same site that hosts the link also hosts this, but it's nice to have it right in front of you. It kind of documents the endocannabinoid system and how exogenous cannabinoids interact with the body in various ways. But we can look at that later on. It's highly detailed. Neither of us are medical experts in any way, so we won't be going super in-depth with endocannabinoids or exogenous cannabinoids and interactions, but we'll be just touching on bits and pieces. However, I'm sure you guys will have a lot of questions, so please ask. If we don't know the answers, we can definitely get the answers to you later on, though. So very simply, endocannabinoids, they naturally occur in the body, and so here's one of the caveats. We started up in 1997 and were sort of in operations before that too. And at the time we started, there wasn't a lot of knowledge going around about endocannabinoids and about exogenous cannabinoids in cannabis. But we set up anyway because we had that kind of evidence from people saying that this is how cannabis helps me. Now that we are starting to understand the cannabinoid system more, we kind of see how there are two primary sort of receptors in the body, CB1 receptors and CB2. CB1 being those in the central nervous system and the brain, and CB2 in other different systems. Exogenous cannabinoids very simply replace these whenever they go out of commission. So basically the idea is that exogenous cannabinoids come in and are able to just kind of replace the functionality that's lost when endocannabinoids aren't quite able to function the same way. As you've probably been studying, that affects synaptic feedback, particularly in terms of pain perception. One of our largest populations of membership that come in and use cannabis are people that have various levels of pain. We're going to hit upon that in a second. You'll also find that we have several other different populations that use cannabis for just a massive gamut of ailments. People who are dealing with dealing with therapy that comes with having HIV/AIDS. People who have cancer and are managing just the sheer level of symptoms that come up with that, including nausea, pain, the effects of chemotherapy, so on. We have also people who have mental health and trying to manage mental health conditions with it, as well as people with addictions that are using cannabis specifically for that. We also have people with muscular conditions, muscular dystrophy, and so on. Inflammation conditions such as fibromyalgia, and several others. So we'll go through those.
One of the easier ways to think about it in terms of our day-to-day is what we primarily offer is symptom management. So folks aren't necessarily coming to us and saying, I have HIV, how does cannabis work with HIV? They're coming to us and saying, I have HIV and I deal with lack of sleep, I have heavy pain, I can't eat anymore, I'm nauseous all the time. And a lot of folks that deal with any of the various conditions that Isaac just mentioned consistently have all of those similar symptoms. So cannabis is really simple. It kind of works backwards, where you're just saying, okay, well, we know that these strains work really well for these types of symptoms.
And that's a key part too. There's different strains that work for different symptoms depending on the kind of cannabinoids in there, depending on the way that those cannabinoids interact with each other, as well as how they interact with the particular person that's using that. So just from there on to cannabis for many different conditions. We'll go through a list, but if you could, once more. as I said, pain is kind of the main sort of thing that people come to us with. Right now we have just under 9,300 members. So we tried to do member surveys and research as much as possible because we have such a large population. So when we did this, which was about 2 years ago, we were able to get about 4,000 people to participate. And out of that, we broke it down into kind of the different conditions that people have. So when we looked at pain specifically, and as I said, folks that have pain as a primary symptom are fairly large in our population. It broke down like this. So as you can see, a fairly large contingent had chronic pain, followed by arthritis and joint pain. Put in fibromyalgia there in terms of pain from fibromyalgia, which is associated, but in this case separate from inflammation from fibromyalgia. Migraines, muscular dystrophy, as well as folks with paraplegia and quadriplegia, and the pain associated with various conditions there. The other, as you see, are the folks that have various other things that are their primary symptoms, nausea and so on, that are included here. There's several other pie charts. I really love pie charts, but I thought we'd just deal with the pain one for this particular one. So as Elsa said, what people usually come to us with is symptoms, and these are kind of the main ones on there. I was wondering very quickly, for any of you, is there anything particularly familiar in this population of people here? Well, these are a membership, by the way. So, yeah.
They're all seniors?
They're all seniors, yeah. So what we're finding over the past 3 or 4 years is that about 60% of the population of people that are coming in new are people that are above the age of 60. So any idea why that might be? Yeah?
Because beyond 60 is where most of these illnesses start to appear and take hold.
Very true, yeah. That's a good way to look at it. That is one major part. Another major part is you'll also find that the senior population in BC is quite rather massive. Retirement communities, particularly based on the island, and we have members that come in from the island or order from us from the island, as well as retirement communities based in sort of places close to the border like Cloverdale. Yeah, and as you do get older, these symptoms start popping up. So that's just an example. Another example of our membership here as well. And yeah, these are the main symptoms we're looking at: pain, sleep difficulties, appetite issues, as well as nausea, muscle spasms, and inflammation. So with that, I'll just hand it over to Elsa to talk about us.
Okay, I'm going to stay seated because it makes me feel more comfortable. But a bit about us, like you can see, we were established in '97 and we registered as a nonprofit organization in 1998. Like Isaac already mentioned, 9,300 members, and that's from like the point of time back from '97 to now. A lot of our members have either moved on to other dispensaries, stopped using cannabis, passed away, people move away, all different reasons. So our active membership is actually more along the lines of what, about 3,500, which is still a pretty large number in terms of just thinking about how many people are accessing cannabis as a medicine. The model the Compassion Club has with relation to, why are we talking about the Vancouver School Board again? You have to remind me of this.
Oh yeah, just so one of the things that we get asked to do is presentations. There's a lot of service providers out there that don't know about how cannabis works. So one of the most interesting things that we've had to do is present. It was about 1.5 years ago for Vancouver School Board, which runs the School-Age Children and Youth Program, which is shortened to SASSY. And and so they wanted a presentation about cannabis use amongst school youth, school-age children that were using it medically, and also separating that from recreational use among school kids as well. So we did a presentation on that. We've also done some of the presentations for the drug policy coordinator of the City of Vancouver, as well as met with social planning. So kind of to situate that, you find that right now in Vancouver there's about 30 or so dispensaries. So there's a lot of talk in Vancouver right now about what dispensaries are about. And actually I'm just going to hand this out. Did anyone see the Vancouver Sun from yesterday? You did?
I read
Yeah.
the news about like they said
Yeah.
that they wouldn't enforce the Stephen Harper's new law.
Yeah. So this is very much to do with the political. I mean, the major thing is that Luongo is being traded, but other than that, there's also the fact that, well, I mean, it's basically got to do with the city politics around dispensaries. Let me take a quick look and pass it around. And basically how that works on a kind of federal, regional level. So federally, the way it's set up is that if you are going to procure medical cannabis, you have to go through Health Canada. They have a system right now in place called the Medical Marijuana Access Regulations. Now that's going to be gotten rid of at the end of this month for another program, which works a bit differently from how it works right now. However, for us, as also we'll be talking in a moment about, we work in the legal gray area where we're not associated with Health Canada, but we exist because there's a need for us to exist for, as I said, 9,300 members that use our services. And also with health service providers, which you know.
Yeah. I'll jump down to the legal gray zone because we're already in that area, but how that affects us in relation, like specifically for me, I do a lot of different things with the Compassion Club. I do presentations with Isaac, but primarily on the day-to-day, my job is doing member services. So I actually am somebody that comes in and I serve members all day. I help them pick strains. I help them learn how to use the cannabis as a medicine. I help them learn about the plant in relationship to whatever the circumstance they're facing. So how that affects me with the legal gray zone is my job as a legal. I go to work every day and I practice what we like to call civil disobedience, and I have to run the risk of knowing that at any given time, at any given moment, that the government, BPD, any municipality could make an example of us and come in and shut us down, which would probably put me in jail for a while. So that's exactly what the legal gray zone has to do in relation to how I work every day.
What the Health Canada system does, very simply, is that it works by mail. So whereas we're able to provide face-to-face interaction, so a person comes in and they go, hey, so I have nausea and I need to find a strain that fits for that. We're able to kind of talk through in terms of what that would be, as well as if a strain hasn't worked for them, how another strain might.
Yeah, it's all of those reasons why BPD doesn't touch us. It's why the government hasn't shut us down. And we stay open every single day. We often have to spend a lot of time telling our membership, like, actually, I know you feel really safe coming here. I know you see us as being very valid. You've learned a lot from us. We feel as though we're experts in the medicinal cannabis community. We're still not legally recognized by the government, so it leaves us in this awkward space of like just not being able to offer 100% safety for our membership, but also saying we've done a really good job to provide what we can within what we have.
There was a question there.
Sorry, I was just wondering what was in the picture, but...
Yeah, good question.
The picture is our apothecary. It actually leads right into the subsidized medicine and natural therapies. Another really big part of what we do and what we believe in is providing cannabis and other natural therapies at a low cost that's easy to access for anybody in the community. So a lot of our prices are super low in comparison to what you would find in other spaces. So cannabis, it's not free, it's a very expensive thing to access as a medicine. It's not covered under MSP. There's no medical coverage, I don't think, anywhere in Canada where you can find any subsidy aside from being, I guess, legally licensed and claiming it in your taxes. But the natural therapies, we have so many other really cool wellness center therapies. We have acupuncture, we have Reiki, we have massage therapists, herbalists, counselors, all different types of other holistic therapies that people can access in conjunction with accessing medicine. We love it. We were able to offer it for like $5 a session, which is way cheaper. You can never find an acupuncture session for $5 a session. So folks that are low income or even transient have a really easy time being able to access therapies that they wouldn't be able to. Research-based approach, I'll let you go.
So just to answer your question, that's our herbal apothecary. It's one of the services that we provide.
Yeah.
So all those are various levels of herbs on there that are herbalist, ethically wild craft all over the West Coast. Bring it in, and as members come in, they go, this is what I have. They can prepare teas for them or other compounded products that they can take home and use. Stefan?
I was going to ask about how, if you're operating illegally, then how do you procure like your business license? Is it through the apothecary and other services that are there? Or?
As you might find in that article, we don't actually have a business license, but the city is okay with us operating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
do our best to be as legal as possible. The goal.
And just quickly, just so I can lead into this frame from the last one, the reason we're able to provide all the services and particularly subsidize all of those is because we're a registered nonprofit society and we have a commitment towards that. So the idea isn't to make a profit from what we're doing, but instead to take any money that we earn and put it back into society, particularly in the form of services for members, which is why we do all those things that Elsa mentioned. We've also tried to be involved with research as much as possible. If you look online, you'll find a fair number of research articles based out of the club that have come out. I believe the very last thing that came out is out of the BC Center for Excellence in HIV/AIDS research, and what that looked at was cannabis as a substitute for harder drugs and for alcohol. And so that came out of researching through our membership as well. And what Elsa just handed out there is a document that we created on the safe and community-based distribution of cannabis, because we get asked all the time, hey, I would like to set up a dispensary, how do I do that? And because, again, because of the sheer limited time that we have, we can't talk to everyone about that. We do have documents like that that we've created that we put out in the community. So our approach to medical cannabis, having talked about endocannabinoids and also about exogenous cannabinoids, is that we believe in member condition-specific feedback and build our national therapy programs based on this. So as much as research as there has been, the main way in which we build the strains that we have on our menus for our members is that we listen to our members in terms of what they want. So if they're finding that a particular strain is really good for pain, then we start trying to accommodate that strain as much as possible for them. So yeah, it's based on feedback. We believe in whole plant medicine. Very simply, it's accommodating cannabinoids and research into cannabinoids into the work that we do, but also thinking about the whole plant. So I don't know if you guys have ever heard of cannabis extracts, things like Sativex, Canisat, and so on. Anyone? No?
Yeah, like even like Marinol.
Marinol, things like that. So what those do is that they kind of isolate single cannabinoids and use those. For us, very specifically, there's about 80 cannabinoid compounds that they've identified so far, as well as flavonoids and terpenoids, and we believe that these in combination, interacting with one another and with the person using them, is what's important. So we try to use the whole plant as much as possible and never isolate cannabinoids.
What are flavonoids or cannabinoids?
Flavonoids, they're compounds other than cannabinoids, so terpenoids. Flavonoids usually add to the flavor of something, as well as the fragrance. Yeah. And we believe in harm reduction. So as I said, we have a number of folks that access the club for using cannabis to get off harder drugs. So we help that as much as possible. And we've done a fair number of presentations on that. We spoke to Richmond Addictions and kind of did a why cannabis works for drug therapy sort of thing.
This also includes pharmaceuticals.
Very much so. So we have a fairly large population of people that manage pain using pharmaceutical opioids, and they access cannabis particularly because they're able to use less quantity of the opioids, as well as use that quantity for a longer period of time because they use cannabis in conjunction. And the reason why that works is that cannabis is able to open up dopamine receptors in the brain, allow for the reception of opioids far easier. So we have that as a very large population as well. So that's pretty much it. Other than that, we've handed out those two documents if you guys want to take a look. And there's also this from the Canadian Consortium for the Investigation of Cannabinoids. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
So feel free to ask any questions that you're curious about in terms of the process or legalities or concerns or opinions.
This is a question. I recently had to do some research regarding psychedelic drug therapy.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel, or do you guys feel there could be, once cannabis has a better, laws will change, or become more legal? Do you think that could be another kind of area of medicine which could be expanded upon, and then
Psychedelic drug therapy?
Yeah, psychedelic drug therapy. Because there's some research supporting it, and it's just that there's not enough research right now. So, do you think that could be something?
Post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah, there's a lot of regarding alcoholism, terminal illness related depression, anxiety, and PT. That's related to, I guess, MDMA and
I'm also
stuff.
using the ayahuasca for addiction treatment.
Right.
Do you guys think that could be another area that could be expanded upon?
Us being the Compassion Club and who we are in relation to just plant medicine and looking for alternative solutions, it's definitely one of our core values. At this point, it's kind of like we're research based. So once the research is there, we're probably going to have to reevaluate what our position is on it. But at this point, we're just in the same boat as
I feel like it's sort of like cannabis, but it just hasn't had enough research into it.
Yeah, well, that's exactly a huge barrier to it. Without the legal freedom to do any research, you can't really grow that much. We're decades behind places like Amsterdam, but still decades ahead, I guess, because we're Vancouver.
Yeah.
So why do people on the island come to you? I'm just curious, because do they not have dispensaries there, or is it just what makes your dispensary so unique that they would want to have a hassle of coming there?
Okay.
Yeah. Points of access for medical cannabis are actually really hard to come by, and as you've seen, a lot of our population is members that are seniors. So for them to access cannabis in just the regular everyday community outside of a dispensary is very difficult. To go down to Amsterdam Cafe for a senior isn't really a safe thing to do. I hate to say it, you can laugh about it, it's funny, but that's part of why people often like to come to us, because they see us as a safe space. And quality control. We know our cultivators, we know where the cannabis comes from, we make sure that it's really high grade, that people are able to ingest it, and people like that. We also have a diverse variety of strains, whereas if you're buying or accessing cannabis outside of a dispensary or a place like ours, you won't have that. You'll be able to find 1 or 2 strains. You probably won't find any extracts or any edibles. A lot of the world right now outside of the dispensary is smoking only. Most folks that have illnesses or conditions don't really have that ability, or don't even really ever want to take up smoking ever. So it makes more sense to access all of those things through a dispensary because it's convenient. Again, back to membership and being member oriented, a lot of the folks that we service are also very ill, so even just having to go through the physical steps or the labor or the time and energy it would take to be able to obtain those things elsewhere, it's just an easier way to do it.
Okay, but I mean, there's no dispensaries on the island?
There are dispensaries on the island.
That's just
that's personal
this one.
preference.
Okay,
folks
that's cool.
just know or they don't know.
And then also, you said that people come to you in Vancouver to ask to open a dispensary. So, and I might have missed that. You said you have paperwork or something. So, is that how they come to you guys? I'm just confused.
Get advice from them.
Do they get advice, or do you guys actually give you have authority to?
No,
permission to
nothing
do it?
like that. They just want advice. They want best practices.
Sorry, I thought you meant you
that,
have to.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that document is basically about best practices around that.
We've also used that document just to promote our model in general and taken it to our meeting with the Senate of Canada. So we could say this is a model that we would like to suggest that Canada takes on and regulates in this manner, as opposed to the plan, the program that they have right now.